Finding courage, it seems, is a matter of looking inward and accepting our differences. Our next session is a conversation between two successful stars from the world of movies, Jugal Hansraj and Ashiish V. Patil, in conversation with our editor, Garima Syal, talking about their respective books.
Hello and welcome to this live brought to you by HarperCollins India. It's World Book Day today, and what better way to celebrate it than with our wonderful authors and have a conversation around books, around reading, and around their favorite memories of books growing up. So for this session, we have two very special guests. We have Jugal Hansraj. Of course, we all know him. We've loved him all this while. He's a film actor, he's a writer, and he's a national award-winning film director. His first book was published in 2017, which was followed by The Coward and the Sword in 2021. This book was also nominated for and shortlisted for the Atta Galata Award in 2022, after which he wrote the sequel to the book called Jugal of Nisava. Jugal is currently based in New York. I'm very happy to have you, Jugal. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you, Garima, for the wonderful, kind words. And I'm really happy to be here to speak to you and Ashiish, who's someone I know for so many years now. And and especially since this is World Book Day, I've been a voracious reader since childhood, so it gives me great pleasure.
Great. So also joining us today is Ashiish Patil. He's a writer, producer, director, and as he calls himself, an autism dad. He's the former CEO of MTV India and the former head of Youth Films, Digital Originals and Talent at Yash Raj Films. He's a Cannes Grand Prix Glass Lion winner and on the Ad Age Global Creativity 50 list of people who mattered. He is also the author of Goldie Boy and The Three Apes. Very happy to have you, Ashiish. It's a wonderful day to speak to the both of you. And I'm going to dive right into it and begin by asking you both to talk about your books. We'll go with Jugal first. Please tell us about your book and what inspired you to write this book.
So The Jewel of Nisava, as you said, is a sequel to my earlier book, The Coward and the Sword, published by HarperCollins. And the response I got for the first book was very positive, and the story itself lent itself to going ahead with the characters because they were young and there was an adventure involved. So I wanted to know more. So then I started. I had ideas for actually two more books. So book two and book three already when I was writing book one. So I just started expanding on book two. It took a little while because in between there were some acting assignments and I have a young son, and so summer vacation time I can't write. So but yeah, I think the second one has come out and the response has been equally positive. So I'm enthused about the book three, which I'm currently writing. Hopefully, it's received well too.
Great, great. Ashiish, we want you to talk about your book, Goldie Boy and the Three Apes. I know it's a very special book and it's very, very close to your heart, but talk to us more about the book.
Thank you so much, Garima. And I'm not surprised that Jugal has designed whatever he designs almost like a cinematic universe. So it had to be a trilogy, of course. So I'm not surprised at all. And as far as Goldie Boy and the Three Apes is concerned, I think the inspiration for the book was really simple. It was our son. So Rishan is on the autism spectrum. And he's someone who inspires me every day. He inspired me to write this book. And I think it's never too early or too late to learn about neurodiversity and autism. और भाषण किसी को सुनना नहीं है गरिमा. I think lectures देके, and Jugal and I come from the world of storytelling and movies, and that's always been a great way to seed great ideas, bring change. I think that's the most powerful way to put things out, and I think there's very little literature or material on neurodiversity that's accessible. I think most of it is very theoretical and academic, or the other end of the spectrum, which is sob stories. And there are less than 25 books like this in the world. I mean, nothing in a picture book format, nothing talking to children. I mean, and chalo, forget books. Let's talk about pop culture and the world that Jugal and I come from, which is movies. I mean, we are a 111-year-old film industry. We are the largest film industry in the world, right? So far, largest producers of films in the world. Till date, we've made upwards of 45,000 films, and there are less than 300 featuring disability. if I were to talk about how many of those, and I'm not even talking about primary characters like a Tare Zameen Par or a My Name is Khan or a Barfi, right? I'm even talking about Farida Jalal in a wheelchair behind Amitabh Bachchan in Majboor. Now, if I were to talk about how many of those characters were played by disabled or neurodivergent, actually neurodivergent folks, you'll be shocked. It's less than 15. You know, I mean, it's embarrassing. So forget about underrepresentation, it's non-represented. What's worse is that it's misrepresented. या तो वो, you see, I also come from the world of TV, so the whole reality show की दुनिया ना is this very बेचारा pity party की दुनिया, you know, अंधी माँ, विधवा बहन, you know, I mean, you watch that, you go into depression, yeah. So either it's that pity party or it's this whole inspiration porn which you watch in films, you know, like which is पैर नहीं है फिर भी एवरेस्ट पे चढ़ गया, रेस जीत गया, and or worse is that it's played up for gags. And I think it's really important that people in the community, neurodivergent folks, are able to see themselves on screen. They see themselves in pop culture because, you know, movies, pop culture, books, literature, music have such a powerful impact on young minds and on all of us in shaping and shaking perceptions. So either you can be a part of the problem and say, "Arey, yaar, koi kuch kar nahi raha hai," or you become part of the solution. And I always prefer the latter. तो फिर लिख दी और बन गई, and then fortunately HarperCollins came on board and said चलो छापते हैं. So that's how really the book happened, and I'm really glad that Harper picked it up and we had so much fun with it.
Sure. I like the fact that, you've talked about it with such ease, but because I'm on the other side of the business, I understand that it takes a lot of work. And I understand that the theme that you're talking about, the story that you're wanting to tell, and also because both of your stories are coming from your personal space, and also from the fact, I think, that you're both fathers. So I'm sure that it's not as easy as you both make it sound. And I'm sure there have been challenges along the way, but I want you to talk about the challenges and how you've tackled them.
Firstly, before I go ahead, I want to just say, congratulations to Ashiish again, because he's really shed light on this in such a wonderful way. So, it's just great work you're doing. And I hope there's more stuff, coming out. He's anyway a creative background person, so it's good. So, as for me, the challenges were like, firstly, it was again my son's birth that inspired me to, write The Coward and the Sword. There was a lot of free time I was helping take care of him. And at that age, when they're born, they're just sleeping or they feed and go back to sleep. So I had a lot of time and I started jotting down notes. And so it wasn't easy. There was no commission book. There was no structure. I just started putting random thoughts down. And again, it was inspired from a place that when my son grows up, I want him to read this and be proud of his father that, done something good. I'm saying something good. It's not just a book for entertainment. It's also something that I'm saying, which is, again, that inspiration came from my study of Buddhism, nature in Buddhism, which I've been studying for many years and practicing. And so a lot of the readings of Nichiren Daishonin and Daisaku Ikeda have really impacted me in a very positive way. And I thought through my story, if I can put some of what I've learned into young minds, even if it's just one drop in the ocean, I think somewhere there's so much trouble and strife in the world, so much negativity. If I can throw one drop of positivity with each book, that's the least I can do. So yeah, challenges were there to find a publisher like HarperCollins, but I'm really grateful that they came on board and they've liked it and they've gone ahead with book 2 as well. That gives me confidence and inspiration to continue with book 3.
Great, I'm sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure that all your readers who've picked up the book so far and the ones who will after this session will agree with me when I say that it's a beautiful story, but it's also a beautiful story told in a very beautiful way. And I remember looking at the advanced copies when they were in office, and I think I was really moved by the illustration and just how beautiful the book looks. So I'm going to now move on to Ashiish to talk to us about your challenges while writing the story, telling the story.
Yeah, sure, but sorry, before we jump to that, again, since we have a mutual admiration society going, I must, hark back to Jugal. The book is really gorgeous, yeah. It's really, really beautiful. And one more thing in common. I mean, I took to Buddhism literally about 5 years back, and there was this beautiful line I'd heard, Jugal. So Daisiko Ikeda also, I think, hugely impacted my life. And I heard this lovely line that, religion is for people who are scared of hell, and spirituality is for people who've been to hell and back. And I
Right.
think that
Very
really
well
kind
said.
of got me
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
yeah, man. And I loved just the whole principle, the whole
yeah.
philosophy of how, the Soka Gakkai kind of brings you in that you can change your karma starting every second. And that
Right,
every
right,
drop really opens up that element of positivity, like you said, be it with
right,
the book, be it with your actions, be it with your
right,
speech.
right.
And I think that also, I think, hugely influenced my thinking in writing the book. So it's so amazing to see that and hear that. But because challenges to our life में, Garima, मतलब we always have that, right? So या तो बैठ के रोते रहो, या you do stuff about it. And like I said, there's such little material versus whining about it. I thought let's go take a crack at it. And like I said, most of the material that's out there, even with the best of intentions, they miss the nuances. They're very ableist in their approach, most of these books, either in terms of language or in terms of tonality. And since I live in this world of neurodiversity and neurodivergence and all of that, it's a really fun world. And see, most of the projects that I do, be it a feature film, be it a music video, be it an ad or whatever else, we always have a tie-in at the back end with neurodiversity. So it could be the catering that we do on set, or be it an assistant director that we bring in who's from the spectrum or on the spectrum, right? And it's a really fun bunch. I mean, it's just so much color and humor that comes along with that. So I want to make sure that we capture all of that color. We make sure that the book is simple, it's accessible, it opens up your eyes to this fun world, and it's also enjoyable. कि वो भाषण नहीं देना है. The parallel of a Raju Hirani film. So that walking that line was always very tricky. Fortunately, visually, I think the illustrator that we brought in, this lovely arts teacher who works with children out of Noida, Uttar Pradesh. तो निकिता आ गई और उसने बहुत खूबसूरत the way she kind of illustrated the book. There's like detailing and nuances in, I mean, my reference points are Mad Magazine. So every frame has something more you'll discover when you go back to it. Or be it, for example, this autism logo that I'm wearing, right? It's the international sign of autism. So every butterfly that you catch in the book is in the shape of this infinity symbol. Or things like the reason the playlist on her iPad is Billie Eilish is because Billie Eilish is someone who's neurodivergent. She has Tourette syndrome. So it's all of those detailing that went in. And also in terms of language, we wanted to be very neuro-affirming. So then I made sure that, we went to all the topmost neurodiversity experts in the country to make sure that we've got the tonality and also parents from the community. So all those small things of the food feature will be gluten free, or the blanket over there is a weighted blanket, or the language that we use is stuff which is neuro affirming, and people get it. It's stuff like, okay, my brain has to be a flexible brain, not a rock brain. So these are things that the community is used to hearing. So bringing those things which were, I would say, not challenging but really important and tricky, but I think walking that line, and at the same time it not becoming a textbook, becoming really fun, becoming really positive, becoming really non-judgmental, becoming really silly. So along with Billie Eilish, you will find Bappi Lahiri in the book. There are Beatles and Burman both who are in the book. So I think walking that line, but fortunately, हमारी ट्रेनिंग फिल्मों में हुई है, तो वो जब बोरिंग हो रहा है तो आइटम सॉन्ग डाल दो तो वो मजा आ जाता है. So that's what I guess we were able to kind of infuse into the book. I think that's what made it easier. Those were the challenges, but I think that's how we kind of hacked it.
No, I agree completely. So I remember reading the book and finding a lot of joy and a lot of peace actually in the fact that all these little details have been tied in very seamlessly with the larger narrative. It's not forced. It ties in very beautifully with the larger story, and it still continues to tell the story in the most real, authentic, and impactful manner. So I think that's a complete victory for the author, for you. I'm now going to talk to you both about your childhood. Since we are talking about children, we are talking about books. It's very important for me to ask you, what are the kind of books that you both have grown up reading? Whoever wants to go first.
I can go first. I've been a voracious reader since childhood. In fact, I was also librarian in my school, just so that I could be around, books. We had a wonderful library at Camden School. And I started, of course, way back with comics. I remember reading Archie and Tintin really opened my mind to the world. My love for travel and different cultures came from Tintin, which is still very popular in parts of the world. Asterix. And then, of course, I moved on to books like Hardy Boys and stuff like that. But what really got my attention were these two authors. One was Agatha Christie, when I was like, I think probably around fifth, sixth standard, and P.G. Wodehouse. Both authors I still go back to every now and then to enjoy their writings. Woodhouse, especially, I would say, is a happy place. And I've read all the books several times, but I have almost all the books published. I have the collection, and it gave me so much joy that sometimes I felt even if I don't have friends or I remember when we moved homes, there was a phase and at that age you don't really, message or there were no mobile phones to keep in touch with friends and I had to make new friends. So books became my kind of support. So books have always been an integral part of my life. Since childhood up until now, I still read a lot. That's what in fact prompts me to write. When I write, I always think as a reader, do I enjoy reading this? What I write when I finish a day's work and next day I read what I wrote yesterday. I go back to it as a reader. Say if it's not working, I'd like delete and rewrite the whole thing. So that's my perspective on books. They're my friends. I would say books are the best friends one can have. And you can take them with you everywhere.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
it's great.
What about you, Ashish?
Well, I think, I kind of started out a little differently. I think I used to be very intimidated by books. So some of the similar ones, like Tintin, I discovered the world thanks to Tintin. The Archie comics, the famous fives, those were the Nancy Drew, वो सारी चीजें, those were easier reads. I discovered a sense of humor thanks to Asterix. That, oh my God, here are characters, cacophonics, fully automatics. There is 006 who's James Bond and there's Sean Connery as a spoof, which is in there. The first ever mole spy is like literally it's a fly. Which was like, my God, you can think like this. So it blew my mind. But the fatter fiction books used to intimidate me that, yaar, ye to 350 panne. So I would read 3 pages and then go to the end and say, find out how it ended. And that's just kind of silly, right? And someone told me something that changed my life. They told me that those who don't read are no better than those who can't read. And I was like, oh my God, Munshi ji aapne meri aankhein khol di. And then there was no looking back. And then I think I dove into, all kinds of books beyond your Amar Chitra Kathas. I started with a little more easier, pulpy fiction space from a Jeffrey Archer, a Sidney Sheldon, and a Frederick Forsyth. Then I moved to slightly more pop philosophy in terms of Richard Bach and, Jonathan Livingston's Seagull. Then you move on to Ayn Rand and Fountainhead, and like blow your mind saying, oh my God, I'm going to be like, Howard Rock, but you're actually Peter Keating, you moron. So that happens to you. And then I think there was no looking back. So I'm also a very voracious reader. I mean, I read on average about 40 to 50 books a year. So it's fantastic. It's your best ticket into kind of looking at the world, making friends you never had, and I may seem like I'm an extrovert, but I'm an absolute recluse. And books are my best buds, absolutely. They don't judge you, and it's fantastic, right? So I mean, it's the cheapest ticket to go anywhere, travel. Let this travel. It's fabulous. So that's the kind of stuff that I read, and I read all kinds of things. From a graphic novel, I'm a huge fan, and that's a great reference for even features. Like the references you'll find in, manga, anime is what will influence potentially your shot taking and things like that. I think the styling and all of that. So from there to fiction to non-fiction to business books to biography I used to be a little judgmental about self-help books. I remember this really fun joke about this guy who walks into a library and says, listen, where's the self-help section? And the librarian says, go find it yourself. That just completely cracks me up. But I think just literally now, opening up to that, opening up to including some books on Buddhism, like The Buddha in Your Mirror is a book I keep going back to. I think Jugal's probably read that as well. So all of those, I think all of these different books is like meeting different people, and that just opens your perspective and opens your mind and opens your heart in ways that nothing else can. So yeah, that's the stuff I grew up with, and I think I'm still growing with that.
Right. Hearing both of you talk makes me realize how beautiful the world of books generally is, but of course the beautiful world of children's books, and also how I think, I mean, I'm a little at loss of words, but I think your generation in that sense was luckier because they just had much lesser sensory stimulation. And
Did you just call us old, Garima?
no,
Sorry.
no, I just said you're more fortunate.
I think we're just young people who've been around for a while,
You're
for a
way
while
you're
longer.
way more fortunate than we are. And I know that everyone will agree with it because we are growing up in a world where there's a lot of sensory stimulation for children. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise about knowing the next big thing, and by the time you learn about it, that thing has changed, and there's another thing, and there's another thing, and there's this information load. There's all of those things happening. And I think with that, we are moving towards a society that is extremely competitive, that is extremely there's a lot of emphasis on being aggressive and being number one. But I think in that whole process we're missing out on creating a world and a space where kindness is really needed. It's missing. So I want you to talk to us about your thoughts on this, and if you think that kindness is something that books can help inculcate. How do you think that can happen?
I agree that now there's so much distraction as a father of a young boy. I mean, there's Nintendo Switch and there's YouTube and there's TV and there's so much stuff going on. But I definitely try and inculcate these two things. One is playing outdoors. When the weather's nice, go out and play, get some sun, kick the ball around, or take a bat or whatever. And also reading, which is what I do in the night because I'm myself. This that's such a joy. I remember when I was a much younger boy sitting, and reading Malgudi Days and the Arkinara and taking into that little village, in South India, or even Bill Bryson was someone I read a lot that opened my eyes to a lot of places in the world. I'll read a lot of travel books, food related stuff, travel people travel the world. It just opens your mind, which just by playing a game on the TV or watching something might not be the same. So I definitely think we were indeed fortunate because we could sit, we had the time, and and that also made us a little, I think, calmer and less, all over the place. Which again, and as far as kindness, that's what I speak about in my book. Is you can still be brave and strong and courageous, and also be kind and all those things, kind, polite, but you can still be the strong person. Whether you're a boy or a girl, it goes both ways. So that is something I've again tried to put in. Again, it's a drop in the ocean. And some young reader, starting with my son and other kids, they read it, they feel it's okay. It's cool to be nice. It's cool to be kind, and you can still come out on top and be the winner and all that. So definitely reading will help on that front. And I just do hope that young readers and parents especially encourage their kids to read, as I'm trying. Hopefully he continues as he grows older. We only have so much influence, but I think also seeing parents read and enjoy books is something that they pick up as well. So, and definitely there's so many you can influence them to read the right kind of books that talk about kindness and doing the right thing, and somewhere it influences them. It seeps into the subconscious. So yeah, that's what I think.
What about you, Ashish?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, Garima. I think, the thing with screens, right, is that the more they kind of connect us, the screens and the internet, I think the more they disconnect us. I think, and that's, I mean, how can you ever, I actually landed up writing a film about this called Mujhse Friendship Karoge against the backdrop of Facebook, right? That how can you ever replace a real smile or a hug with an emoji? I mean, it's never going to happen, right? And I mean, fortunately or whatever, Rishan's journey is very different from most kids due to his autism. But I mean, I have nephews and nieces, and I see the social media addiction is bonkers, and what it's doing to their, like a change in a DP and not enough likes have gone up in 30 minutes, and I almost see them starting to get antsy, and that's just crazy. And I really think, I mean, the world always needs more kindness. And I think books are the number one way to learn anything in life, be it kindness or seeding any new idea. I think it's your free ticket to travel anywhere, to meet anyone you want, to get new ideas, to open up your imagination. I think, and again, I'm constantly going back to our backgrounds of, I mean, no matter how big a film is, right? No matter what the budget of the film is, what kind of VFX, it'll never match the theater of the mind. That's why a film adaptation of a book, no matter how well done, can never come close. Never. I mean, barring maybe a Jaws or a Shawshank Redemption, no movie will match up ever. I mean, here the advantage is your casting, your scoring, your styling yourself. और कोई पीछे प्रोड्यूसर बैठा नहीं कि नहीं यार पैसे नहीं है. अच्छा बारिश आ गई एक दिन शूट हो गया कम हो गया. There's no, I can see Jugal laughing about that, but we've been there, right? So that's the advantage of the film, and it's the most powerful way to seed ideas into young minds, to put them out into the world. And I think that's where kindness can be learned, kindness can be taught through characters which do that, which demonstrate that. And I think the gift I love giving is a book, and usually not new books. It's usually books I have read with a lot of my dog-eared pages with notes, etc. That's what it really means. It's like a piece of your heart that I used to be really possessive. कि यार कोई घर पे आएगा छुपा दो, कोई लेके गया मेरी किताब तो मुझे मेरी फट लेगी. But now I've become just the opposite. So I was just like, man, this really means a lot to me. So that's the kind of stuff. That's one more great way to teach kindness. That this is something I'm curating and picking for you because I love it and I think you will like this. So I think things like that, I think that's the best way to really put it out there.
Right, right. Since we're talking about how we're living in this mad world where there's technology, there's social media, which of course has its pluses, but it also has its negative side. I want you, Ashish, to talk about the experience of bringing up a child with special needs in such a tech-driven world, um, and share it with all the parents who are listening to you right now.
I think it's, I would say, like tech, like anything else, frankly, is a tool. There is, of course, the crazy overdrive of social media constantly around and etc. But I think it's also a tool that makes the world way more accessible than it ever has been. I mean, I know a bunch of folks in the community, kids who are not verbal, and thanks to an iPad or thanks to an app, they are now able to communicate. And I think for Ishan, I think tech is like a tool, just like music. He's very musical. So I think that's his tool to connect, to communicate, to express, to calm his social anxiety. And I think it's a tool that we could all use really to drive up awareness, to drive up acceptance. I mean, April happens to be World Autism Acceptance Month. So that entire month, this is where the chatter on social essentially goes up. I'm hoping it's not tokenism, and then it's like those Women's Day pe HR cake leke aata aur fir next day back to usual, right? So I'm hoping it's not that, but I think that's where potentially tech people need to understand how they can use that to really connect with folks, to read up. I think there's so much more accessibility now than we had when we were growing up. So I think it's important that people are able to use that tech to drive up their awareness. And I think we always fear things that we don't know or don't understand. I think that's really उन चीजों से हमें डर लगता है. That's why we discriminate. I think and look at it. No, our feeds are full of these random cats and stupid jokes and travel videos and food videos and all that, which is great. I don't know how many neurodivergent disabled creators we follow. I think it's important we use tech to also support that, to seek that out, to learn, to engage with the community. It's a crazy statistic, Garima. Like 37.5% of the world is disabled. That's more than every third person. It is extremely likely that you know someone with autism and you don't even know it. It's when a lot of people read this book that we did, Goldie Boy and the Three Apes, people are like, oh shucks, yeah man, there was this kid in my class who was just like this. Or you know what, there's this boy in my office who's usually by himself at lunch and doesn't really open up his mouth in a meeting, but he's probably like this. And forget anyone else, I think I have symptoms. I think that's what I'm hoping in this tech-driven world, that we're able to use to its advantage and use it to seek out knowledge, to become more aware. And I think जब हम समझेंगे, that's when acceptance will come. And I think we are at that stage where we have to move beyond acceptance and celebrate differences. Especially now, Garima. I mean, look at this election year. I don't think the world has ever been more divided than it is now. I mean, due to race, religion, gender, geography, and this is true across the West in the US. And I think, it's election year over there as well, with Trump leading in a bunch of these places, which is interesting, or what's happening over here, right? So I think it's really important that we use tech and books to be able to teach us or learn those things early on in a fun way, and it's that much more relevant. So yeah, I think tech will bring scale, will bring ease, will bring fun and simplicity, and we must kind of use that and books to be able to do that.
Right, right. In fact, to sort of sum up all that we've just discussed about tech, about growing up, about the world that we're living in, and also about kindness. I was very moved, in fact, when I recently read this data. So, the World Happiness Index, which is brought out by a couple of agencies, including Oxford and WHO, and they ran this particular survey to find out the happiness level amongst various generation of boomers, of millennials, before the pandemic and after the pandemic. And they realized that after the pandemic, the act of benevolence went up and the happiness levels also went up. So I think yes, we are at a time where we may have a lot of differences, but it's time to celebrate those differences, to embrace them, and then also to lead the path with kindness. Just as a last thought from the both of you, what is your message to your readers, to all the parents who are listening to you, and to the young children who are listening to you and who picked up your books and will pick up after this live? What do you want to say?
I can go and say that firstly, my message to parents is definitely encourage their children to read. As Ashish and me both were talking about, it opens your mind to the world around you. And, if you read good things, that will somewhere subconsciously seep in. And also, make you aware about diversity also, as he was just talking about that. It's very important for children to, at this age, to know about all these things so that when they grow up, they know that everybody's not the same, everybody's different, but that's fine. That's how the world is, and you should enjoy that. That's one thing. And the message I would like to give young readers, of course, I've put in a lot of stuff through my books, is, one, um, something that stuck with me is winter always turns to spring. So never despair. Always keep your hopes up, whether it's in exams, whether it's in sport, or, whatever the children are doing, that things can turn around, and it's up to you. Your true courage lies within you, not outside. So don't seek it outside, it's within you. That's my message for young readers.
Great.
How nice, Jugal. I also, I read that line about winter turning to spring. Also, I
Yeah,
think in one
yeah,
of these Buddhism books, and it was beautiful. It just stayed with me. What a beautiful thought, yeah. You feel positive minute you read that. Lovely.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, very much. So I think my message is that one line that essentially got me really motivated to read, which is that those who don't read are no better than those who can't read. I think just really understand that. And books are literally like a gym for your brain. Or body banani
Yeah,
ho to yaar, you can't do one push up and stop. I think it's really important you have to kind of commit to it. And literally, if you read just 15 minutes every night, it's part of your ritual like brushing. That's potentially 10 pages a day. That's a book a month, which is 12 books a year. And forget 10 years, in 5 years, you're going to be unbeatable. You will be ahead of anyone and everyone. And read all kinds of things. Just the way we are celebrating differences and diversity, I think do that also in all kinds of things. So don't be judgmental. You're too young to do that. In fact, you're always too young to do that ever. Across genres, across formats, across types, comics, graphic novels, non-fiction, biographies, business books, self-help books, whatever. Read and become unbeatable. 15 minute har raat.
Absolutely. I
रात घिसो तो
completely
दिमाग
agree.
को घिसो. So
No, I completely agree with you. I think reading is of course very, 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 very important when it comes to acquiring knowledge, but it should also be a regular activity when it comes to finding pleasure and joy in the
this
everydays.
part of the message was brought to you by HarperCollins. Sorry. Sorry.
Yes, very proudly. Okay, I'm going to request both of you to show us the books on screen so that all our readers and people who tuned
There we
in for
go.
this live uh, can get a sense of the book. So that's Goldie Boy and the Three Apes by Ashiish Patil, and there's Jewel of Nasawa by Jugal Hansraj. These are two very
with
significant books.
yeah, and I must add some wonderful illustrations by Aruchi Shah. She's done a commendable job, and in attracting young readers through the book. There's some wonderful illustrations.
Indeed, absolutely. Two brilliant, beautiful, and very, very impactful books. Please go pick a copy for yourself, for your children, for your nieces and nephews, and especially for your own self, because I think it's a great way to also keep your inner child alive. Thank you so much, Jugal and Ashiish, for joining me on this conversation. Very, very happy to chat with you, and a very happy World Book Day to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you to you too.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
chatting with Ashish and you, Garima.
Yes, brother.
And
Great to see
thank
you
you.
again. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much for
Likewise.
this reunion. Okay, cheers.
It was
Bye.
great. Thank you. Bye
Cheers,
bye.
brother.